got a super fun topic today, or at least a very, very common topic that is discussed every day and used by virtually everybody all the time. If you're listening to this, you almost assuredly have had some struggles with this or some enjoyment or some type of interaction. And our topic today is going to be about Wi-Fi. My goal is to really speak to the everyman, if you will. There will be some things that are interesting to the very tech-oriented people. There will be some things that are definitely over the heads of some people who haven't used Wi-Fi or any of the, maybe they've used Wi-Fi, but they haven't used the distribution methods or whatnot of building a home network. When we look back just a few years ago, what I'll be talking about today is kind of common knowledge for the IT professionals as they were deploying Wi-Fi units into businesses large and small. Now we have Wi-Fi networks that are necessary to run our homes, and we start wondering like, oh, my internet's not any good, or whatever has happened that's caused us to be frustrated with our internet connectivity. Maybe you're buffering while you're watching TV on a smart TV. Maybe you're gaming and you're wondering why you're dropping connection, or you get frame stutters, or you do things like I'm doing here, creating a podcast, uploading it, interacting really in depth with the internet, and you're wondering what all these frustrations are coming from. In most cases in these, I can pretty much assure you, start with the Wi-Fi, start with what you're doing and how you're using it. And I think after you listen to this episode, it may open your eyes that maybe it's not completely fix every problem that you have, but it certainly will open your eyes to look around at your current situation at home and see what's going on. And maybe, oh, well, maybe I do need a Wi-Fi extender or a mesh network or something to that effect. So let's just dive right in and talk about Wi-Fi or internet for a lot of you folks. When you look back and you say, well, I haven't ever had problems with internet, but all of a sudden I do. I don't know why. I've used internet my whole life. My family's used it and I haven't had problems, but I do now. What's going on? I don't understand. Like I go in my room, I can't watch this show on my Roku. I can't watch this show on my different streaming media, whether it be Apple TV, Amazon Fire Stick, whatever it is, Chromecast, all these things, right? It's not working right. Or even my smart TV, something's not working right, but my internet's always worked. So what's the deal? So when you look at the past several years, as we've come into this really data-centric evolution in our infrastructure, we have speeds that are available today that weren't ever available before. But why? It's because we need them. As you guys are starting to add streaming media into your home, whether it be one of the hundreds of platforms, YouTube, you're listening to me on a streaming platform right now. Maybe it's you're watching Netflix. Maybe it's a TV provider looking at their apps or whatnot and looking at the live streams. Regardless of what method it's happening, you're consuming video products and music and things like that over an internet connection. Now, with that internet connection and watching all this video and piling on, you're using more internet or data than you ever have before. Maybe you watched streaming TV like 2 years ago and go, well, it worked fine then, but now it's not. Well, now we're pumping 1080p, 4K, soon to be 8K, or soon enough, that you're pushing all that over this internet. So what does that mean is a standard stream on a 480p or 760p TV back a few years ago worked fine. Well, when you go up to 1080, it doubles the need of internet. You go up to 4K, what quadruples again. That's what 4K means, 4,000. Where 1080 is 1000. So you're pushing 4 times as much information across the internet. So when you did have a 25 meg connection and everything worked fine, and then you add one 4K stream onto that, well, now you're using 4 times as much data as you did before. Okay, so what does that mean? You're using a bunch of data, right? You're watching some video, maybe 4 or 5 of you guys are watching video. You got your kids watching YouTube, you're watching Netflix, somebody else is streaming something else, and you're like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. But what does that have to do with Wi-Fi? So not only do we have more people using more things, if you look at a household of a family of 4 people, each of you have 1 to 2 devices connecting to the internet. You have TVs, you have smart TVs, you have Rokus, you have all these other streaming devices, Google Home, you have smart homes and smart home connectivity. Well, that's a whole lot of things connected. Now, sure, you might not be using them all at one time. However, they have background updating processes. They may be running a little bit in the background, and that's going to come into context for you later when I'm talking about how internet actually works with each other and where Wi-Fi can be a real struggle for some people. So now as we turn into this, we got the picture. You get it. You're like, yeah, that's enough. I got it. There's a lot of stuff being pumped over the internet. So what does that mean? All right. So when you have a hardline connection in the past, you can kind of look back if you've had service with a different provider. Even today, if you call in and say, hey, my internet's a little slow, one of the things they'll have you do is plug your computer directly into your router or directly into your modem with a hardline connection and say, okay, check your speed right now. And mostly this is because they already know 90% of the challenges people have with their speeds and what they're experiencing has to do with Wi-Fi. And that is the precise reason I'm doing this podcast, to give you a second thought as to how you can manage this or what challenges you're really running into. So you stream, you buffer, you listen to audio, it takes it a second to load up, maybe it takes it a little bit longer to interact. Well, this is a lot due to Wi-Fi. As we talked about, the internet providers are well aware of that. They guarantee service into your home, and then you're distributing it on your network, your Wi-Fi. Maybe you have a provider that gives you a Wi-Fi router along with your service. Maybe you've already upgraded and said, ooh, I wonder why they have these $300 routers up here and mine just came for free. Maybe there's a reason that I have these. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. One of the big things that you want to know about Wi-Fi is it's transmitted over 2 channels. I like to think of it like AM and FM. It works very similar. If you think about that, or if you go out in your car, flip on your AM radio dial, you'll notice that you pick up some stations that may be really far away from you. The quality's kind of bad, right? You might pick up something that's literally 60, 70 miles away, and sometimes you even get cloud skip and you get stations that are further away with AM, but it doesn't sound really good. It sounds kind of tinny. It sounds maybe a little scratchy, those types of things, right? Then you flip over to FMs like, oh, this is super clear, but when I leave my yard, I lose my FM signal. That's a little joke, but maybe you don't lose your signal leaving your yard, but the range is certainly much, much smaller. In Wi-Fi, what that translates to is you have 2 networks almost exclusively. Now in a home, you're going to see 2 network identifiers created inside your home. One of those is going to be a 5 gigahertz band. That's kind of like FM. Then you've got the 2.4 gigahertz band. It's kind of like AM. And the analogy works very much like what I talked about. The 5 gigahertz has a small circle, or a smaller circle. The 5 gigahertz has a smaller circle that will push really high quality Wi-Fi through to that area. However, it doesn't penetrate walls well. It doesn't carry as far as the 2.4, but you get that really good speed. So when you have these really nice internet speeds that are probably available in your area that are 1 gigahertz, 300 megabits per second, you've got some that are 100 megabits per second. And when you're on that 5 gigahertz network and you're close to your router and you have a direct line of sight, there's not a lot of walls, you're going to get a lot of that speed transmitted directly to your device if the device is 5 gigahertz capable. Some older devices are not. You think about even some of the newer devices like a PlayStation 4 is not 5 gigahertz capable. So it's relegated to using the 2.4. Does it make it bad? Does it make it terrible? Does it make it not usable? No, it just will not carry the same speeds across your network. So, will you notice it? Almost assuredly, if you are looking at a device compared to it and you run a speed test, one runs really fast, one does not. You're sitting immediately next to each other. I can almost guarantee that one is on a 5 gigahertz and one is on a 2.4. Now, when you go back to the 2.4, sure, you can walk pretty far away. It'll penetrate walls. It'll carry further, but you're going to lose quality. You're going to lose speed. It's going to be like that AM radio station. Won't be quite as good, but it reaches a lot farther. So you've got a small circle and a big circle. You've got those two things. Pretty simple, right? 5 gigahertz better, 100%. No questions asked. Latency's better. It's quicker to deliver. The second thing that you really got to take into consideration is the channels. So just like on an AM radio dial, you have the different channels, the 530, whatever. And then FM, you've got like 99.9, 101.7, those different channels, right? The same goes on with your Wi-Fi. You've got your 2.4 gigahertz channel. You've got your 5 gigahertz channel. With the 5 gigahertz channel, you've got a lot of really big lanes. They're like, think of them like highway lanes. That's like a 6-lane highway versus a 2-lane back road. So in the 5 gigahertz, you've got almost 50 different channels that you can choose from. So literally, in an ideal world, you could have almost 50 devices turned on in your home, and they never overlap each other. There's never any traffic except for that one vehicle or that one device that you have on those lanes of traffic. When you go back to a 2.4 gigahertz, you only have 11 channels, 11 lanes of traffic total. So you look at your home, you start counting smart TVs, you start counting phones, computers, laptops, smart home appliances, whatever it is, all those things generating Wi-Fi signal all have to travel down those same 11 lanes if they're all on 2.4 gigahertz band. So, wow, okay, that's pretty cool. You've got a couple things. One, the 5 gigahertz, smaller circle, but faster. A lot more lanes, a lot more traffic can travel across that, but in a smaller area. Then you've got the 2.4, it carries much, much further. However, very, very few lanes of traffic. All right, so we kind of got that sorted out. We know 5 gigahertz, smaller, better, more traffic. 2.4, bigger, slower, less traffic. Okay. Now, when you look, and especially those of you who live in apartments or multi-dwelling units, or you're in a tightly packed neighborhood, open up your phone sometime. Just look at the available Wi-Fis. How many do you see? I live in suburbia. I live not within, 30 feet of the next home over. However, when I open my phone up and look at the Wi-Fi networks that are providing internet or trafficking in my area, I've got 14 different devices sending Wi-Fi. 14 different routers I could possibly attach to. I know they're my neighbors. I know I've got a couple devices in my home. I know several neighbors have that. Some people have wide area networks in the area that project over a good amount of the suburban area that I live in. All those things are traffic on the lanes of the highway. When we go back and think about what Wi-Fi is coming in here, what lanes of traffic are coming in, think about it. 2.4 goes really, really far. And remember, it has less lanes of traffic. However, because it reaches so far, you're actually picking up your neighbors and they're impeding on your traffic. So their cars are driving in the same lanes that your car's in. If you go onto channel 6 on your 2.4, your neighbors may very well have 12 devices on just that channel. You don't know because you're not looking at their devices. However, you're sharing a lot of area. And this is what's called congestion, right? So you're congested with the amount of traffic going over a small area, especially in the 2.4 band, because it is traveling through walls, coming into your house, into your basement, into your rooms, and their data is transmitting around and blocking up the ability for your devices to communicate. All right, so what does all that mean? 5 gigahertz. It may not reach all the way through my house, but this 2.4 does. But ooh, no, I'm in a lot of lanes of traffic. What do I do now? Okay, so you've got to think about this like a network technician to a degree, and look at your home. Take the word and ask the questions of the people installing your internet and say, hey, is this Wi-Fi really going to cover through my house? What do I do when it doesn't? Most of these folks have Wi-Fi testers that can actually show you the signal throughout the house. A lot of the providers actually provide the ability for you to do that yourself. But how do you combat that? So the simple answer is look at the things that I love the tech terminology right now. It's been marketed, and you hear it marketed as a mesh router. What is a mesh router? Well, a mesh router allows you to daisy chain your router into other router type units or extenders that go throughout your house. This is a huge advantage. If you're going to take my advice and just make life really easy, and you can afford to do so, only use the 5 gigahertz. But you have to do that with caution, because you probably own a device, a TV, or something that is not 5 gigahertz capable. So be cautious when you're taking the advice about just use 5 gigahertz. Let me correct and say just use 5 gigahertz every chance you can. This way, you're always going to get the speed that you're paying for. You're going to get what you already are affording in your monthly budget, and it's going to cover your speed necessity. You're going to be able to stream more consistently. You're going to be able to connect faster and have a better quality connection. However, when you're looking at mesh routers, you really need to take these things, think about it, talk with your technician when they come into your home, really quiz them on the questions. Make sure they know what is going on, and they can explain to you that, hey, this router, it's going to cover your whole house. Okay. Is it going to cover it with 5 gigahertz or only 2.4? How do we get this throughout the rest of my house? Well, you might need a route or extension, or you might need a mesh router, or you might need some more access points added to your home network. All sounds kind of complicated. It's really not. You really just have a solution, whether it be a product that's already out there. All the big manufacturers make them. Netgear makes them. Google makes them. Apple makes them. They all make these extenders or mesh network ability to expand your network through your home. It is not to get Wi-Fi across your house. It is to carry that higher quality 5 gigahertz channel all the way through your home, or channels. This way, you're going to have a much better experience. You're going to enjoy and have less problems when you flip your device on and it will just start working. Some of the more advanced Wi-Fi routers will constantly be looking for what are the clearest channels. Almost every router will do that when you turn it off and back on, but these more advanced mesh networks routers will actually smartly look at your Wi-Fi usage and say, oh, that device just turned on. Channel 153 is a little full. Let's move it up to 155. All those things are constantly going on in the background. So don't skimp on your router fees, and especially don't skimp when you're talking about mesh networks. They are a godsend to all the technology that's going on right now. So you pay for 50 meg, you pay for 100 meg, you pay for a gig. All of it really doesn't help you except for those hardlined computers or the computers that are tied to a 5 gigahertz network with a really healthy signal. So really take the time, look at your usage. It will save you a huge amount of pain, agony, frustration over time to just understand that, get it fixed one time and be set forever. It's worth the investment. Take your time, think about this, look over it, talk with your installer when they're coming out there, get that 5 gigahertz pushed all the way through your house. You're going to be happier. You'll thank me later. And that's all I have for you today. Appreciate you joining in. Feel free to send any comments over my way. I'd be glad to chat back and forth with you and let you know what my thoughts are. If you have any specific questions, throw them out there always. This is Drag signing out. Appreciate you. Thanks. Have a great day.